When we say charge on, we commit to do extraordinary things, to put in the work, to be smarter and stronger, to let them know we're coming. Charge on! Charge on! When we say charge on, we commit to do extraordinary things, to put in the work, to be smarter and
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second Research, Recovery, and Reskill webinar. My name is Susan Vernon Devlin, and I am the Manager of Communications and Marketing for Rosen College of Hospitality Management at UCF. I will be your moderator this afternoon. First, a little housekeeping before we get started. Please note that we will only be using the question and answer feature on this webinar. We will not be using the raise the hand feature or the chat feature. So if you have a question, please type it into the question and answer feature. And now I would like to introduce you to Dr. Yucheng Wang, the Dean of Rosen College of Hospitality Management, to get our webinar started. Dr. Wang?
Thank you very much, Susan. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is May the 29th, 2020, and hope you are having a fabulous Friday afternoon and are ready for an exciting weekend. Thank you all for joining us today for the second in a series of webinars we designed to help UCF graduates retool for the changes we are facing as the hospitality and tourism industry emerges from the effects of this COVID-19 virus. Again, my name is Dr. Yucheng Wang, and I'm Dean of the UCF Rosen College of Hospitality Management. Our mission here at UCF Rosen College is to develop the future leaders of the hospitality industry. And that, of course, does not stop after you graduate. As part of the UCF family and leaders in the industry, we are a resource for each of you as you develop in your careers, especially now as our industry faces so many challenges. And now I would like to invite my colleagues, Dr. Robertico Croes and Dr. Manuel Rivera, to take over the Rosen College Research, Recovery, and Reskill webinar series. Tico and Manuel, please take over.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. Welcome, everybody. My name is Robertico Croes. I'm the Associate Dean for Research and Administration and the Director of the Dick Pope Senior Institute for Tourism Studies at the Rosen College. What I would like to share with you in the next 15 minutes is some basics with regard to what is leadership in the sense of rethinking and also focusing on the crisis that we have at hand. So leadership, as President John F. Kennedy so brilliantly explained, is that in a crisis we have dangers, but we also recognize opportunities. That is very, very important. When I joined the Rosen College 18 years ago, one of the things that I remember in my conversation with them, with the founder, Dean Pizam, was the fact that we are preparing our students to become leaders and not managers, which means in our colloquial terms, when we discuss the curriculum and the future of our students, that we prepare you for your last job and not for your first job. So therefore, what is very, very important is when we look at crisis is exactly that. What are these opportunities that we have in front of us in order to transform things, to make things better, to do things differently in order for us to move forward? And what we know from the world today, particularly right now during COVID-19, is the fact that we will always be faced with changes that challenges us as leaders because we have to balance lives with livelihood. We have to balance, what is right now safe with business opportunities and business progress. So we are confronted as we move forward with a constant in changes, which are basically, we are living one right now, which is the COVID-19. But very soon we will be confronted or faced with hurricanes. It's the hurricane season. So we have to be prepared for things that might challenge us again, not only in terms of our logistics, but also in the way how we confront and face challenges and problems ahead. So what I want to do today is, when we confront those challenges, we have to rethink the basics, put those basics that we have learned, on the table, and try to focus how we can make sense of those basics and essentials in order to come up with the right recipe in terms of solving problems. That's very important. We know that principles are the same. For example, if we think about the law of gravity, it doesn't matter where we are on Earth, the law of gravity is the same. It is the same thing in terms of decisions when we confront problems, that some decisions that we come up with are decisions that depend on a sequence. For example, when we build a house, it has a sequential order. So therefore, it is important to look at whether we are talking about decision-making or how we approach problems in terms of sequencing, or whether we approach problems based on certain basic principles that remain the same all the time, no matter the context. And I want to discuss today 4 hospitality essentials with you, very, very quickly. The first is hospitality is mobility. The second, hospitality is time-bound. The third, hospitality is willingness, ability, and fairness. And finally, hospitality is interdependence. Let's look at the first one. Hospitality is mobility. What happens when you halt mobility? Well, we all have seen what happens in the past 3 months. Basically, tourism and hospitality came to a complete standstill because people cannot move. If there is no movement of people, of course, we will not have the core of our business, which is tourism, which is very, very important. So therefore, whatever we think through, the first thing that we have to think about is how can we make people move in order to enjoy vacation, their leisure time, and so on. We have seen that the consequences of non-mobility are dire and they are uneven. We have seen, for example, through the research that has been done so far, is that, for example, the cruise sector will be one of the most jeopardized in the near future. We have seen people that are afraid to fly again. We have seen that people are afraid to even take vacation. So that is something that we need to take into account when we look at the problem of mobility. So it is uneven in terms of its consequences, not only in the subsectors, but we have seen in terms of the entire economy that the hospitality industry has been the one that has been the most affected in terms of non-mobility of the people. I think it's about 52 or 53% of the job losses in the country are concentrated in the hospitality industry. So that is important to take into account. Mobility, which is the first principle. The second principle, which is very, very important, is that hospitality is time-bound. We know that if people do not move, that particular service that we provide or that particular good in hospitality is lost forever. So if one person doesn't stay in your hotel room, that hotel room is lost forever. The same thing with an airplane, the same thing with theme parks, with restaurants, and so on, because our product is perishable. What it means is that we have to continuously focus on demand. What kind of demand? How is demand changing? How are people thinking? What what are motivating the people in order to travel? What are these drivers? So demand is very, very important because our product is perishable. And because it's perishable, that is the first thing that we have to look at. The third principle, which is very, very important, is that usually when we think about demand, we think in terms of price. Is the price, value? Is it the correct price value? Is it that people are willing to pay for that? Once we know a little bit about how much people are willing to pay for that, then we look at whether people are able to engage in that particular activity. So whether they have the time availability for them. So it is not only a question of price, the price sensitivity of the product and service that we offer, but also it has to do with what is the time that they have in order to enjoy our service and our product. So we need to look at time as well. But in the time of crisis, what becomes even more important than willingness and ability is the question of emotion. It is the question of fairness. And that is something very, very important. We know that from our own experience, that, for example, price gouging, there is some regulations against that. But if the market, if the customers don't perceive that you are treating them fair, in a fair way, in an equitable way, you may lose them in the future and lose them forever. So having that kind of empathy with them, showing those emotions that really bind the two of you together is very, very crucial, particularly in the time of crisis. So fairness is important, and there are, in the literature, we can notice, or we can consider different strategic games in order to determine how do you define fairness, how do you measure fairness and empathy. So that's another important essential when we deal in a time of crisis. And the final essential that I want to emphasize is the fact that all our actions are interlocked. We are interdependent. What does it mean is that a customer does not just patronize a hotel or a restaurant. When a customer visits a destination, it is the whole destination. So all our actions, if we want to move forward and to make progress and to come out of the crisis and recover in terms and rescale in terms of our businesses, it is very important that our actions are looked from a holistic perspective. So we have to look at all the stakeholders involved and be involved, because our actions have consequences. For example, we can see it at the COVID, where public health has become so important, because each action that we undertake may have a positive or a negative effect on another person, willing or unwillingly. So that is very important when we also consider everything that we want to do in terms of helping us to overcome this crisis, that it has to be interlocked with other actions. So therefore, whatever we do, we have to think in terms of a destination more so than just our own business. So that's very important. So these are the 4 essentials that I wanted to share with you when we confront some new realities. So what are these realities? The Dick Pope, as a Dick Pope, we have conducted some research which are very important and which I want to just share a few of these, actually to give you a scoop actually, because these findings are very new. We just finished the survey last week, and I'm sharing 4 points with you. The intention is to have a very specific webinar where we will discuss these findings. The first thing is about desire to travel. We have approached more than 1,800 respondents across the country, and only 1/3 of those, about 36%, said they have this motivation to travel as soon as the restrictions are released. So, so that is very, very important. We have this sample, we have this population of 1/3 of the people who wants to travel. And we need to know, remember, as I mentioned, one of the essentials is demand. We need to know where these people are, who they are, why they want to travel, and what is it that they want to consume when they are on travel. The other important thing is that Florida, among all the destinations in the country, Florida is in the top 3 together with California and Alabama. So that's also an important thing for us, which is very positive for the state of Florida. So what can we do as, for example, Central Florida, in order to make sure that we enjoy the opportunity that this new demand offer us during this COVID period that we're moving towards, hopefully very soon, to a post period of the pandemic. And then the final 2 other important thing is that health has become a very important consideration. My colleague, Dr. Rivera, will talk about health and risk, which is very important. And in the surveys, and the respondents are very, very clear. They want to travel, but 4 out of 10 of those who want to travel are very much focused on health. So you have to provide them with the right type of information in order to accommodate their level of certainty or uncertainty, in order for them to really have the opportunity to patronize your product. And finally, as I mentioned, there should be a very, very sharp focus on marketing, because there's only 1/3 of the total population who wants to travel in the next 12 months. So therefore, it is not the total population that we are accustomed to travel, but we only have 1/3 available. About of this 1/3, 4 out of 10 are focusing on this particular problem that we have today, or challenge, which is health. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to give a message, communicate to them in terms of not only this their risk perception and the level of certainty that they should have, but also what is very important is to show and convey empathy and this emotional message, and connect with them in terms of bringing them to consume your product. And we know as well that these people, they prefer to do road trips instead of traveling plane. So those closer to home are your best bet in terms of that 36%. So what is important, I want to finish here before and allowing later for any questions that we may have, is in every crisis there is opportunity. And it is very important when we look at these opportunities that we keep in mind these essentials, these basics, because these basics will determine how successful we're going to be in whatever new things that may come up when we look at how to recover and how to move forward. And I always like to use what Winston Churchill said: you should never waste a good crisis. And this is an opportunity to come up with new things and creative ways, and to have fun with these new ways as we move forward. Thank you very much, and defer to my colleague, Dr. Rivera.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, fellow Knights. I'm glad that you joined us today. I hope you're keeping well and staying safe. So we're cognizant that we're going through difficult times in our industry, and I'm glad you joined our webinar today. What you see in the screen, you have 3 words: to, live, and eat. But the orders of the words are different, and there are different perceptions attached to it. You know, those who live to eat view food as something more in life than just fuel. It can mean comfort, family, friends, happening, lifestyle, stress relief. And those who live to eat is more just than food. It's about what they mean today. So nowadays, as Dr. Robertico Croes expressed, there has been a dramatic change in our industry. And the restaurant industry have been affected very, very much. When we look at the DNA of our industry, we're a high contact, high experience industry, and being shut down has really created a challenge for us. So through the presentation, I'm going to address some of these issues on how to move forward, and I'm going to focus on the research, on the recovery, and the reskill as it applies mostly to the restaurant industry. When we look at the trends in what we eat, let's look at before the crisis, during the crisis, and what could happen after. When we look at pre-COVID shutdown, we see that there was a big trend in food away from home. And these are establishments that include restaurants, schools, vending machines, mobile vendors, versus food at home. That's people who then consume in grocery stores, warehouse clubs, mail-in orders, and home delivery. And we have a 50-50 split according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and within that, in the food away from home, the QSR and full-service restaurant have shown almost a 7-fold increase in the past 10 years. And we see that there's been a desire for money versus convenience ratio that has been changing. What happened is that there were good things happening for those in the restaurant industry, that there was more consumption. However, once the COVID pandemic created the shutdown, many of these from away from home establishments suffered, and the consumption habits of our customers was forcibly changed. We've seen that the research is showing that around 30% of people have gotten food from restaurants. 27% thought about it, but 43% didn't even think about it. And more specifically, 60% think about doing it, but only half of them actually went and do so. So obviously you can see that the consumers there has been a contraction in terms of the consumers' consumption in restaurants, and a new behavior has been adopted. They've been forced to stay at home. They're practicing social distance, and as we get ready to reopen, which is the post-recovery, post-COVID area, we have to start thinking about all the things they want. They want many safety features. They want more social distancing feature. They want to maintain and see the hand sanitizer. They want to be informed. So these are all things that will transform the way we operate, but above all, they are going to change the way we actually eat. So I want to bring to you a perspective that I want you to consider, because the competitive landscape have changed. We see that those who provided services in the food at home, the retailers, they experience a spike in demand. And mainly this happened because the consumer behavior was forced to change by a force majeure. There was no choice. You have to stay at home. So our lives and routine has changed drastically. And there's a factor to it. And traditionally, we always play with price and understanding the consumer's income, because we know those things will drive demand for our operations. However, price is not king anymore, okay? We must add risk to the equation. And if you can see in the chart in the screen, as soon as we reduce the risk, there's an opportunity to increase the demand. However, this is not going to be easy because the consumers are going to be very aware of many things that they were not before. So no longer monetary by itself will be a factor. We have to add the risk perception, and all of these things will have secondary effects and unintended consequences. So when we're operating our restaurants, we might decrease the prices, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the demand will be there. So the question that remains, and it's on the table right now, that we have to start think about is, how can we reduce risk? And how can we help reduce that consumer perceived risk? But this is a challenge that you have to be aware, because right now, like any other event that has happened, there are intrinsic factors related to the perception of risk that are individual to each and one of us, which is our personal health. And in addition to that, there will be other extrinsic factors that are related to the service provider, which is all of you who are operating in the industry. So it's not only how I feel about things will affect me, but also how I see you deal with those issues. In the past, of course, there's always a risk in the mind of the consumer, but was never related to a health situation like we're experiencing right now. So the key right now is that we need to start thinking how to build trust, how we can ensure to our employees and our consumers that safety is there. And the level of trust is very, very important, because this is what is going to be expected of us without, at the same time, without taking advantage of the consumer. So with that said, let's take a look at some things to help you get ready for and consider the reopening. So if we look at kind of a playbook for reopening, I'm going to talk about two things that you have to do from the supply side. This is more related to your operation. Food safety is the first. That's going to be a priority, and that's something that we practice every day, but now more than ever. Employee training is going to be something that you really have to focus right now. Sanitation practices, dealing with the consumer, all these new things to understand what the consumer wants and how they want it is going to change. And as we can see, there are many, many regulations coming into place to allow us to open. Similarly, you might have some challenges in terms of labor shortage and turnover. So you might have to consider all these things as well. And how am I going to maintain my employees' health and hygiene given all the situations that are happening? At the same time, we are forced to consider social distancing regulations. And in the restaurant industry, we operate, the more people we get in, the better. So we're restricted right now about 50% capacity. In most cases, though, that's a challenge alone. On top of that, we've seen that there's also a challenge in terms of the procurement. There might be challenges in the supply chains that you have to consider. The channels that you use to get your client, you need to start thinking more strategically about partnership with delivery and online ordering. Nonetheless, you also have to start thinking about capacity management. How am I going to rearrange my area, my restaurant to get people? How am I going to maintain a cost structure that is favorable given all the restrictions that I have? Now that we're open, any rent concession that people might have with their landlords might be disappearing. We need to start thinking about technology, how to have more services that are contactless. And also we have to show menu innovation that provides value and, the magic ball, do some forecasting. And these are things that we have to do before we open. Also, if we look at these things also from the demand side, the forecast is a little bit unknown right now. So it's very important for you to start tracking traffic and tracking all the additional incremental costs that are related to operation, either this be related to sanitation, to food packaging, is it just additional labor costs? At the same time, you need to start managing your operation. So understanding table mix and meal duration will become crucial. Understanding your menu mix is also very important. Make sure that you have items that not only the consumer wants, but provide high margins for you. Consideration should be given to consider reservation system to keep track of times and allow people to ensure that trust, hey, you reserved your spot, is going to be there. Continue to promote the delivery and takeout. Technology adoption is also going to be there, something that we have to follow. And more importantly, it comes to finances. You have to understand those break-even points so you know your targets of what to get to at least make the avoid and prevent losses. And the way to do this is you have to kind of become innovative in prices and take advantage of something common to your restaurant and maximize how much you can get from them and offering value to them. Now is the summertime, people are going to have kids at home. You have to consider how to offer services that provide some mini catering opportunities also for people to consume. So it's not only for those who want to come in, it's also now you putting yourself in going to the consumer rather than only considering them coming to you. So you're going to have to be doing some reskilling in real time. Right now the priority is safety. You have to be more thorough in terms of the way you analyze data. You have to maintain better relationships with your employees. But very importantly, your communication skills are going to be put to the test, because you're going to have to communicate with all the stakeholders in the restaurant, for your consumers, for your purveyors, for your employees. And you have to find new ways to get your word out and make contact, either that be through digital marketing, social media. And if you follow the process of gathering information, data-driven decisions might actually help help your business while help you also contain and maintain controls that becomes profitable for your operation. So when you focus on the sharpening of your skills, so I want you to consider the following. You need to ensure trust at every contact point. And that's going to start during the pre-consumption, when they start thinking about coming to you. If they happen to come, you also have to ensure trust there, but also post-consumption, after they leave. You know, all the great things that you're doing, it will help a better trust relationship with the consumers that hopefully will drive demand. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting time to see how we adopt in the first couple of weeks and all these safety features to ensure that we control the infection, especially in the restaurant, and protect the customers. But when we move forward, if we follow these examples, by building trust, you will be able to definitely make a difference. So in order to leave you with something, that when we look at the ability to establish, grow, extend, and restore trust, then this is the key for personal competency of our time. So these are things that you have to consider. And as you can see, this is a little bit different and more pragmatic than what Dr. Croes mentioned from the destination perspective, because now you're going to be dealing with a demand that is a little bit of uncertain, but will be very important to the sustainability and financial performance of your operation. I want to thank you all for the opportunity that you give us to talk to you today, and we will look forward to answering questions and continue the discussion. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera. Thank you, Dr. Croes. Okay, we are now ready to take your questions and answer them. So please do type them into the Q&A section of the webinar site so that we can see your questions and pose them to our two presenters. We first up have a question from Brian. How should the industry interlock itself in the interest of creating an environment where safe, enjoyable, and a consistent experience is had across the industry?
If I may, the industry should communicate. I mean, as I mentioned before, it is first to be mindful of the fact that you have to balance life and livelihood. That's very, very important. What does it mean? It means lives is about safety. It's about health. It's about empathy. It's about showing, you know, not only empathy towards the customer, but also to your employees. So, for example, occupational health becomes very, very important. You don't want to be involved, like, for example, the meat packers right now, where they have a lot of negative discussion about their brands and about how they treat their employees and so on, where they're basically, it is a choice between, you know, working or, you know, having the chance to be infected by the virus. So that is one aspect. The second aspect is, as Dr. Rivera mentioned, is to communicate at the destination level. How prepared are you with regard to if something happened in terms of the safety, in terms of the health? So how many people, what is the infrastructure that you have, what people can do, insurance, about insurance that is available, and so on. That is very, very important. And then emphasizing those things that need to be done in order for people to stay safe, like washing your hands, social distancing, wearing a mask. So that is part of the communication, but it has to be with some emotions. It has to be showing with some empathy. That is what people are asking for right now during the crisis. And remember, the pool of demand is small. It's only 1/3 of the demand that you have to work with. So that's very important to do. And finally, what we know from research that we have done is that people want to travel closer to home at the beginning because they want to feel comfortable. So your focus should be on those closer to home than further away at the beginning in order, and for you it's also very important because it is a way of observing, of piloting how you are reopening your business.
In addition to that, when we're talking about communicating with your consumers, we have to take advantage of every opportunity. Social media is crucial. You need to engage with consumers. You need to show them the precautions that you're taking. That will help build trust. They know your food. They can see that. But as I said earlier, you want to minimize the risks and increase that trust. So show them through social media, show them through emails, let them speak and post their experiences, because that will allow for others to start building momentum about the specific trust people have placed in you, especially when they visit you. So in these times right now, every person that comes through your door has to become an advocate. So you have to take advantage of that, hopefully, to create and catapult a demand for your operation, understanding that you have the limitation of capacity, or perhaps that demand can channel through other venues like delivery and takeout.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera. We have a question from Maria. Maria wants to know, how do you suggest we communicate cleaning procedures for short-term rentals? Should we use pictures? Should we use text? What can we use to keep our consumers from feeling safe?
Before I go into that question, it is important because Dr. Rivera and myself, we did a research together with a team of the Dick Pope and Rosen College about the vacation homes in Florida. And we completed that research in January, just a few weeks prior to the COVID. And for example, we found that the gains in terms of vacation home is important to the economy. The multiplier was about 150 something, but when we did the same research during the COVID, we just finished that under Dr. Rivera's leadership, what we found is that the loss was much higher than the gains. The multiplier was 1.8 something. So if I remember correctly. So what it does, it tell us that whenever there is a crisis, losses are harder and more profound than gains. That's a very important principle to think about when you consider, your strategic orientation with regard to the recovery. So how do you communicate that? What is important is if you have a data bank, again, it's just sending these emails that Dr. Rivera is talking about, showing what you have, what are you doing, showing empathy, showing understanding about the situation, that you understand that their fear, and that you understand that they want to know exactly what you're doing in a very professional way. Very simple, short notices, and be consistent in terms of your frequency. So don't send just one message and then forget about your customers. These are continuously updating your customers about what you're doing and what the destination is doing. Because again, what we want to emphasize at the beginning, during a crisis, it's even so more important that customers are focusing on the destination as a whole and not on particular sectors of the destination. So it is important that you make sure that you're not only communicating as a vacation home owner or manager, but also that your destination is also communicating with the customers.
Thank you, Dr. Croes. We have a question from Sarah. She says that they own a bakery and supplies like gloves are very limited. How would you suggest to make customers feel safe?
That's a great question, Sarah. Again, and these are things that will affect your operation. You will need to get the gloves. You need to have all the PPEs that are necessary for you to operate under the regulations of the state. That's first and foremost. You have to establish a relationship with your purveyors to make sure you secure those items for operations. Regardless if it's a bakery or not, your consumers usually see part of the production process. So you have to ensure that the consumer sees specifically that you're taking care of your business. So if you have any hesitation, I would urge you to reach out to potential partners in your region and try to secure these PPEs as well as many others, because jumping ahead and starting to opening a business, not be fully prepared, can actually cause more damage to your business than actually help you.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera. Okay, we have a question from Blake. This is about drive-through eating establishments, kind of like Sonic. Dr. Rivera, do you see their presence increasing post-pandemic? And since their drive-through model is well suited for the current crisis, do you think there will be an uptick in this kind of business?
Well, the first thing is like, well, they have an advantage in terms that they might not be restricted to indoor seating capacity because you eat in your car. However, you know, we also have to be mindful that we all have our tastes and preferences. So our consumers that come to your restaurant, they obviously have something, they see something that they like and will follow. So yes, those businesses will perhaps get some additional incremental demand, but people are going to go and look for what is familiar to them. And that's the challenge we have right now. You need to find ways that you absorb that familiarity aspect and nurture it with the reduction of risks and again building the trust, not to be repetitive, because people is in our nature. We want to go out, we want to socialize either with your loved ones, go out for an experience, and food is part of our life. The products that you sell will connect with our customers. They have memorable experiences through it. So they might have, an incremental increase, but I don't think it will eat up much of the consumption, as they are also restricted by capacity in terms of the number of people they can serve.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera. We have a question from Justin. He would like to know, how does hospitality pave the way for tourist travel? Dr. Croes, perhaps?
If I understand the question correctly, hospitality is the business side of tourism. So, but tourism consists more than just the hospitality. It consists of the parks, nature, beaches. It consists of government, for example. It consists of people on the street. So it is the whole destination, all the interaction of the people who live, all the residents who live in a particular space. So tourism is space, it is time, and it is mobility. So those are the three elements that makes tourism, and hospitality is one part of it. So how hospitality can help tourism? The only way to help tourism is to make sure there is mobility. If there is no mobility, everything stops. So that's the most important, that's the crucial thing right now. And in order to ensure that mobility, as we mentioned, during this time, up until we have a vaccine, we know that only 1/3 of the people at this moment would like to travel, would like to engage in tourism. So we are talking about 64% who is still afraid or uncomfortable about the situation, that they don't want to engage in traveling. They don't want to engage in mobility. So therefore, our demand has shrunk, and we need to know how to make use of seize this opportunity in order to be very efficient and effective in bringing that demand to where our business is. And that is what we're trying to say. We can use the basics, the essentials that we're talking about, because those essentials won't go away. And there are other things, practical things about skills that Dr. Rivera has mentioned, for example, specifically in the restaurant business, that can be helpful at this moment.
I would like to add real quick to build on that. I think that the hospitality industry as a whole has the potential to make a great contribution. All of you from the operations side, to if we collectively help reduce those risks and build that trust, the tourists will come again. Right now, as Dr. Croes mentioned, there's a little bit hesitation on the tourists. They might come, but that demand is a little bit, might be a little bit delayed. However, that doesn't stop us from take advantage of the vicinities and the communities that we serve to drive consumption. And if we show the ability to reduce risk and manage trust, all of us will benefit from it, because then more people will see those things happening and will be more comfortable to come. So I see hospitality here has a crucial and critical role in ensuring that trust exists in our ecosystem of products and services that are consumed. So yes, I see that we definitely have to work harder at the operations level to make sure that everybody does feel comfortable and safe coming to Orlando.
And as a final word, just those people who wants to travel, that 1/3 has pent-up demand. So that's very important. So they have the money, they want to spend it. So it is a question of how can you make that bridge towards them with that particular message, with empathy, and really showing that you are prepared to lower the risk level for them so they can enjoy that vacation for their well-being. That is the purpose of the communication that you have to send to this 1/3.
Okay. We have time for just about one more question now before we wrap up. So I will choose one on supply chain procurement. This is from Hannah Workman. Dr. Manuel spoke on supply chain procurement. Do you believe that hospitality organizations will have to switch to local vendors instead of relying on more cost-efficient outsourced alternatives?
You know, first of all, you have to find products that are suitable to your restaurant. But the opportunity of finding supply, local producer is something that you must explore. As you can see, larger manufacturing plants have been affected by the virus. Smaller units might have more flexibility in built on this quality assurance for your consumers. It will also help you perhaps build rapport and find strategic partners locally. And we're all in this together. And you know, the local purveyors, that slow food movement, it has never gone away. So perhaps probably now is more important than ever because you can actually inspect the product and have access to it. So from a quality perspective, I see a lot of opportunities there. And also from communicating to the local communities. And we said earlier, you know, if you're serving something that is local, that's a way to promote the product. And if you know it's safe and you can observe that and you can take advantage of that, the opportunity is there. So all these issues that we present to you are definitely to be considered. And of course, if you make it to be financially rewarding as well, then it's a win-win situation for you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rivera. Well, that is all the time we have for questions today. So thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Croes, would you like to tell us all about the next series of webinars that are coming up?
Yes, we have one for the third webinar. Is the topic is building resilience during challenging times. The presenter will be Dr. Fevzi Alchemist. It's Friday, 12 at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's the next webinar that we're organizing.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming and listening to our webinar. We hope that we were able to impart some good information to you. Just so that you all know, if you were not able to catch all of the webinar, if you'd like to share with your friends, the webinars are posted on UCF's Rosen channel's YouTube channel afterwards. And then you can look back at them and see what we have spoken about today and use the data to help you with your business. We thank you all. And if you go to the YouTube channel, you will also see the previous webinar for Research, Recovery, and Rescale, and also industry webinars that we've presented through the Dick Pope. Thank you all again and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.